Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we're talking about Sofyan Amrabat. What does the future hold for him? Also, we've got a little bit of inside info from Benni McCarthy about Jadon Sancho and what went down there. What did go on between the manager and the player, and why can't it get resolved, or why could it get resolved? Let's find out. Jay here from Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and the weather is mild also. If you do care, we're at the other side of Old Trafford because there's a bit of building work going on. I don't think they're revamping the stadium or rebuilding. It looks like they're fumigating it from what I can see. Anyway, we'll crack on. Loads of stories to get through. There we go. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I want to get to 750,000 subscribers by the end of this week, and with your support we can get there. Right, there's this story that's been doing the rounds. I won't get into this because I was asked about it last night on the radio about Trevoh Chalobah, the kid from Chelsea, defender from Chelsea. Apparently Chelsea are looking to sell him. They've got FFP issues where they need to offload some players. The likes of Conor Gallagher have been suggested as being potential targets as well, potential sales as well for Manchester United. But it looks like there could be some legs in this Chalobah one. Now, at first, I was a little bit underwhelmed when I was asked about it. I was like, yeah, he seems like a decent player. Not top of my list, if I'm being brutally honest. But the more I look at it, the more this kind of makes sense. If you look at his record for Chelsea last season, now, I do sort of err on the side of caution here because he did miss a lot of games through injury. But he came into the Chelsea side at the back end of last season and his record was very good. I don't think they lost a game that he started in the last sort of 12 games. I think the only game they lost was to Arsenal when he came on as a substitute. So his record in terms of playing was very good. He was a part of the side that went on that run that sort of took him to 6th place in the Premier League as well. He can play it right back. He can play it centre back. I quite like that. I like players that can play in multiple positions as well. So if the price, which I think is being suggested at around 25 million quid, is accurate, then this deal makes a bit of sense to me. United do need a centre-back. He could be available. The only issue I'd have is the injury record good enough? But certainly in terms of ability and quality and Premier League experience, he's got all that. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat in the comments, because this one has sort of come from nowhere. I've been asked about this a couple of times during the week, and I've sort of gone, yeah, whatever. But now it seems to be gathering legs. I think a couple of papers are reporting on it as well. It's doing the rounds on several newspapers this morning. So worth checking out. And excuse me. Could be a potential centre-back signing for Manchester United this summer. We know we need to bring in reinforcements. We're going to lose Raphael Varane. Johnny Evans, is he going to stay? I'm not so sure, but obviously he's getting on a little bit. No disrespect, but he is. There's still question marks over Willy Camboala. I love the kid, but is he going to be at the very top level? We'll have to wait and see. Harry Maguire, what does his future hold? We don't know. Then there's the likes of Victor Lindelof. Is he quite up to scratch? We're not sure. So there's loads of questions about the centre-back positions. We definitely need to bring someone in. Could Chalobah be the answer? We know we've been linked with Jared Branthwaite. We know we've also been linked with Jean-Claire Todibo. We've had a couple of, sort of rumours, reports as well, linking us with Mark Guéhi from Crystal Palace. Guéhi and Branthwaite are going to be around 50, 60, even up to 70 million. Some papers are reporting Chalobah could be a cheaper option. I still think we need more than one centre-back. Personally, I'd like to see 2 come in at least. Well, 2 I think could be enough. So if you brought in Chalobah and maybe brought in Branthwaite as well, that could make a bit of sense. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you think he could be the answer or could be a good player just to bring in as a squad option, as a rotation option? He's certainly done a good job for Chelsea in that role as well, and he could do it here at Manchester United. Another story doing the rounds as well is about Mason Greenwood. I think I've seen this in the iPaper and a couple of others, or the Independent maybe as well, saying that about Mason Greenwood's contracts, and the Evening News has picked up on this. Now, the idea of extending Mason Greenwood's contract will seem quite ludicrous to a lot of people, considering he's not kicked a ball for Manchester United in however many years it's been now, whatever it is. And obviously we know the issues and the reasons why he's not playing for Manchester United. However, it seems as though United could extend his contract, because you've got that option to extend solely with the purpose of getting more money from him. Now, would Greenwood be open to that? Is that something he's going to be going on board with? I'm not quite sure the machinations of it. It kind of makes sense if you want to get more money for him. I don't think it makes sense if you're looking to bring him back here, because I don't think he's going to end up coming back here. I think United had the opportunity, or had the attempt, I should say, to bring him back into the first team. We know they were planning to do that. It was then reported by, I think, Adam Crafton, who we've had on the channel, spoke about that. He broke that story. There was a massive backlash. Then United released these statements. We saw a statement from the club, a statement from Richard Arnold, a statement from Mason Greenwood himself. And I will tell you now, I think those are 3 of the worst statements I've ever seen a club release in the history of football. They were terrible. They were full of holes. They didn't make sense. Legally, they were unsound. I think there was a bit of inaccuracies in them. And I don't think they did anyone any favours. I know that might sound a little bit melodramatic, really, Jay, but look at the subject they were talking about. Look at the issue they were talking about. Look at the way they handled it. It was terrible. It really was. And I don't believe Mason Greenwood wrote that statement. I think someone wrote it for him. The club checked it and then they still released it. And I don't know why. I don't think it did anyone, including him, any favours. And I was shocked when I read it. However, this is where we're at now. Mason Greenwood's been on loan at Getafe. He's done quite well there. I don't think he's set the world alight, but he's done well enough to garner interest from the likes of Atletico Madrid, from the likes of Napoli, from the likes of Juve, I think have been interested in him. Now, I might be being a bit harsh there when I say he's not set the world alight because he's done quite well. But we know that Mason Greenwood is a very, very good footballer. He's a very good player. Regardless of what you think of him, you can't deny his talents. He is one of the best young players I've ever seen at this club, I'll be honest with you. Can United bring him back into the fold? I don't think that's going to work. Do we need to sell him? I think we do. Does giving him a contract extension help that? It does. So it makes sense on that front. Let me know what you think. What do you think Manchester United should do? Should we give him a contract extension? Should we just move him on? Should we give him another loan move, which is another option as well? Or should we bring him back to Manchester United? I'm interested to see what you think, so make sure you're getting involved in the chat and the comments. Another player that Manchester United have to deal with in terms of his future and what is going to happen is Jadon Sancho. Now, Benni McCarthy has been talking. I think he's been speaking to a South African radio station or South African news outlet, speaking about how he tried to mediate between Jadon Sancho and Erik ten Hag. Now, after the Arsenal game at the Emirates earlier this season, last season, this season, it's still this season, isn't it? Because we've got the Champions League final at the end of this week. So the season, well, we haven't, but Jadon Sancho has. So the season's not done. Erik ten Hag obviously sort of criticised Jadon Sancho, said he wasn't in the side because of his performances in training. Jadon Sancho then put a statement out on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, sort of saying he'd been made to look like a scapegoat and feel like a scapegoat. That obviously didn't go down well with the manager. There was a falling out. He was sort of banished to training with the resis, training with the kids, had to eat his packed lunch, locked doors after him because he was training with children. All got a little bit messy. Deleted the tweet, refused to apologise, and off he went back to Borussia Dortmund on loan. Now, according to Benni McCarthy, he did try to fix this. He tried to get Jadon Sancho and the manager on the same page. However, Jadon Sancho would not apologise. And the reason Benni McCarthy says Jadon Sancho wouldn't apologise is because he felt like he was admitting he'd been lazy. He'd admitted he'd been late for training and he wasn't given the effort that he should have been given. And he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to hold his hands up and say, yeah, I am a bit lazy. Now, I kind of get that. I don't think Jadon Sancho has handled this well at all. And I'm a bit annoyed with how it's gone down. And I sort of blame him more than I blame the manager, because I actually think what Erik ten Hag said after the Arsenal game was pretty beige. I don't think he said anything too harsh, to be honest with you. He was asked specifically about Jadon Sancho and why he wasn't in the squad. Now, he could have lied. He could have said he's got a knock. But then Jadon Sancho could have come out and said that's a lie. And then Erik ten Hag looks foolish. He didn't. He told the truth. He said, look, his levels in training aren't quite what they should be, or words to that effect. Jadon Sancho didn't like that. He pushed back. I don't think he handled it in the right way. I understand why he might be reluctant to apologise, because he might be holding his hands up going, look, yeah, I'm a bit lazy. No one wants to admit to being lazy, do they? So I get it. However, I don't think it fully justifies his actions. He's probably not too bothered at the minute, though, because he's got to go back to Borussia Dortmund and he's going to play in a Champions League final, which he obviously wouldn't have been doing at Manchester United. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on the Jadon Sancho front, but it's interesting to get Benni McCarthy's take there and see that he did try and sort this out. He did try and fix the problem, but Jadon Sancho wasn't really having it. Personally, I think regardless of whether Erik ten Hag stays as manager next season or not, Jadon Sancho's future at Manchester United, I think it's done. You may disagree. Please get involved in the chat and the comments. Let me know. Do you want to see him back at Manchester United? Do you think he will be back at Manchester United? Finally, Sofyan Amrabat. If I'd have asked you a month ago, should Sofyan Amrabat stay at Manchester United Football Club, I think overwhelmingly you would have said no. However, we've had some good performances, least of all in the FA Cup final. Now, as I think it was Aristotle said, one swallow doesn't make a spring. But you look at that performance, you look at the cost to keep Sofyan Amrabat, I think it's going to be about, what, 25, 20 million quid? Some people are saying, look, if he can turn up like that against Manchester City and some of the other performances we've seen, maybe there's a player there. Maybe it's worth keeping hold of him, because how many players of that calibre or who can put in that kind of performance are you going to get for 20 million quid? I kind of agree. I would keep Sofyan Amrabat, but I am proper giddy on that FA Cup final, I'm not going to lie. And I love this performance in that final. And I also think, yeah, if you send him back to Fiorentina, which a lot of people will want to do, I understand that, are you going to get a player who can do a job like he can? Doesn't always do it, but he can, for the money that he's going to cost? I don't think you are. I think it'd be worth keeping hold of him. I did a poll on my own Twitter, and I think it was a bit sort of, last time I checked, it's like 55% saying keep, 45% saying get rid of him. The Evening News have done, the Evening News? No. Evening News? What's all that about? The Evening News. They've done Evening News is what I used to get up to, you know, back in the day. You don't need to know. They've done a poll. They've done a poll. No, they haven't. I've lost my head. They've done a piece which is one of those sort of newsy opinion pieces where it's like a bit of news, but we're going to throw in our opinion as well about Sofyan Amrabat and how he's giving Eric Ten Hag and Manchester United a bit of a headache, and not one of those nice headaches that you can have, where it's like, okay, we've got a decision to make here, and it did look cut and dry. You'd be sending him back to Fiorentina a month ago, whatever. Now it's like, well, actually, should we keep him? I'd keep him. You may disagree. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let me know what you think, whether you agree with the Evening News or not. I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you are checking out all the other videos on the channel. I'm going to be back later on today with The Brew. I've been Jay Motty. This has been The Paper Talk outside a relatively calm Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.